So ladies and gentlemen of the DC Universe, today we're back with another DCU Chapter 1 and I guess Chapter 2, but mainly Chapter 1 because that's what's coming our way. What's going to be different slightly about this discussion series video involving you guys is that I decided to change it up just a little bit. So I asked you, what is the one thing or one of the things that you're most excited for with the upcoming DCU? So we'll talk about that, but also what is your biggest concern going forward? There's quite a range of them if we're being realistic. There's lots to be excited for with a new universe, new characters, shows, movies, even video games, the animated section. But also I'm super intrigued as to what you guys have listed as most concerning. And go ahead, by the way, and like this video if you do go on to enjoy it. It really does help me out. Check out my last video if you haven't done so already. It's a proper deep dive into the history of Batman, the Batsuits. Without further ado, let's get on with this from Hunk S. And he says, or she says, DCU must consist of multi-tonal films, with Batman maintaining his distinct tone, I agree, Wonder Woman staying true to her style and tone, and Superman with his own tone as well. Now, I guess maybe that's what you're most excited for, but you say my biggest concern is that James Gunn's Paradise Lost might delay Wonder Woman's solo project even further. I hope that the DC Trinity can each have their own solo movies and trilogies. So I completely agree with the whole idea of, DC needs to have its own tones across, the characters, the TV shows that fit whatever the tone of that comic book character is. And that has been said before by James Gunn. So he did say, and I really, for now, will take his word for this, but he did say, even though this is all a connected universe, it's really important to me that the individual writers and directors on the projects give their own self-expression to it, just like they do in the comics. Everything doesn't always look the same. Everything doesn't always have the same expression. Different artists bring remarkably different looks, feels, and tones. This is not the Gunverse. And that is one thing I see out there quite a bit, and maybe even will be some more concerns we get into in this video from some of you guys, I'm guessing, because a lot of people are like, will it be all Gunverse, jokey, where he's being pretty adamant, and he must be self-aware enough to realize this might be a concern from people, to lay down the lore of the DCU and how this isn't a Gunverse this early on. He says, I want each project to have the feelings of the individual artist that's working on it and to give them a lot of freedom, as long as it works. Fair enough. He wants to put it there. It's okay, we're going to let him do that. So as long as it works, though, like, we're not going to just let some director, artist, or whoever just go crazy, and if it doesn't work, we're just going to go with it anyway. And lastly, he continues to say to create something special, because what I found through Marvel and what wasn't exciting was when movies were tonally the same. So there you have it. He completely agrees with those who have concerns about movies being tonally the same. And I do believe we will get that, provided we get that far in Superman Legacy, gets us off to a good start. Now, you're saying your biggest concern is that James Gunn's Paradise Lost might delay Wonder Woman's solo project even further. I have to admit, that is something that has left quite strangely up in the air. I mean, we had the whole Gal Gadot thing with, oh, is she coming back? Oh, but James Gunn didn't respond to that, and now that's just been left to float in the wind. Like, nothing's really been confirmed or denied about that, other than that Variety article which claims that Gal Gadot isn't returning. The more time that goes on, the more I tend to believe that maybe she isn't, but I definitely don't think Gal was lying, but we're not going into a whole breakdown of that. The reason why I kind of brought that up is because, does this mean we are getting a new Wonder Woman casting? And what we do know is that James Gunn, ever since day one, according to him, he's been trying to get something Wonder Woman animated off of the ground. Now, is this going to be an Elseworlds Wonder Woman animated thing? Or are we going to see Wonder Woman, as what James Gunn said, he debunked an article saying that Wonder Woman will not be in the first 3 years of the DCU. He says that is not true. So she is? So is that your animated project? So does that mean the new DCU Wonder Woman actor or voice actor / actor is going to be the live action actor, as per what you've said before, with how if there's a Wonder Woman in the movies, she will be the same Wonder Woman in the TV shows and the animated shows if that character pops up in those different mediums? I don't know, but apparently, Hunk, Paradise Lost shouldn't delay Wonder Woman's solo project even further, because apparently we're going to see her in the first 3 years. So I don't know what that means ultimately. But yeah, I'm a bit iffy on the whole Wonder Woman stuff because it feels like it's just like if you throw a whole bunch of things in the pool and it's just floating around, and it's like, okay, we're gonna have to wait and see how it floats over to the actual plan. Because the way it comes across is like, do they know what they're really gonna do with Wonder Woman, one of the main characters, a part of the Trinity? Now, I have to kind of check myself there and check Gunn by just reminding myself, like, surely James Gunn, their co-head of DC Studios, knows what he's doing with Wonder Woman going forward. It's just we don't technically know, other than there's some animated stuff in the works. So yeah, hopefully. And you see, I hope that the DC Trinity can each have their own solo movies and trilogies. That's something we explored a little while back. Will there be trilogies in the conventional sense, like Superman 1, 2, 3? Or will it be more kind of bled out in a long arc adventure that just involves multiple characters, and where, yeah, technically there's sequels, but it might not be somewhat so straightforward as, like, you know, Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3. Believe it or not, I actually wouldn't mind if the main character movies of the DCU, so let's just take Superman, don't come out in quick succession as per what we're used to. So like maybe something more like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 to Volume 3. I believe Volume 2 came out in 2017, and Volume 3, as we know, came out all the way in 2023. Now, I know some of you would be like, wait, what? No David Corenswet Superman sequel until 2020, well, that amount of time after, as per Guardians 2 and Guardians 3. I know what you're saying, but the way I see it is that the DCU may break the mold of what is traditional. Sure, there will be a sequel or another Superman David Corenswet movie, but what if they do Superman Legacy, but he appears in lots of different projects after that? Not stuffing him in there, but since this is like a living, breathing DC universe, as James Gunn describes it, and where characters will be crisscrossing over in different places and interacting with each other, I've got a feeling they're going to try the storytelling approach with how you won't just see Superman limited to his own movies. Does that make sense? You'll see him float throughout other ones. So maybe the 2017 Guardians 2 to 2023 Guardians 3 comparison that I'm giving here won't seem like that much of a long wait if we've seen his character fleshed out in other means through other projects, because that would be pretty cool. And I wouldn't be against that, at least in the principle of that idea. All right, so the second one is from Diner Guy here, 7067, saying, my biggest concern with the DCU is it doesn't seem to be a full reboot, which may cause a lot of confusion. And as for the new Batman, it seems risky to have an established Batman with a rich history we never saw. The rule is show, don't tell. So I think when, looking at some questions from you guys here, or like your biggest exciting thing, but also your biggest concern, is one of them being the DCU doesn't seem to be a full reboot, and that may cause confusion. The whole confusion debate thing, I see it with, two Batmen at the same time and things like that. I don't think it's nearly as bad as what people make it out to be. I think the impression of a new DCU, especially when the marketing gets ramping up for that, for like, let's just say Superman Legacy and whatever trailer text it will show and all of this other stuff, probably more announcement-esque videos from James Gunn and Peter Safran, really trying to, I think marketing will be a huge push in whatever they want to do with introducing the future DCU to the general audience, in what makes that effective, at least. So with it not technically being a full reboot, because you are correct there, you have got John Cena's Peacemaker, you have got Viola Davis's Amanda Waller. But for now, the characters that are continuing on, this is what I think most people like me answer with, is that they are not the staples of the prior DCEU. They're not the biggest recognizable faces. So do I think that would confuse Jeremy down the street who goes to see the latest DCEU movie, or maybe not as of recently? I don't think so. Now, if it was Gal Gadot being kept on as Wonder Woman in the future DCU, then yes, I think that could cause confusion and also crisscross the brand interest, because if you couldn't tell already, which I'm sure many of you can, the box office hasn't peaked past $400 million since Aquaman 1. Yeah, that's not great, so would you really want to bring on one of the faces of the Trinity in your new DCU? For now, the answer, as many of you may feel like there is an answer, is still kind of ambiguous. James Gunn hasn't said anything about it. Gal Gadot hasn't said anything further about it, even though it's probably likely that she won't stay on as Wonder Woman. For now, what I can tell you with what we do know, Peacemaker, Vigilante, Steve Agee's, John Economos, characters like that, I don't think that will cause confusion for the general audience. Now, as for the new Batman, it seems risky to have an established Batman with a rich history we never saw. I'm also going to mix this in with Saeed's comment here because, once again, echoing this concern, I'm most looking forward to Batman and to the Bat family, though I am worried how they're going to handle them. I've always been adamant on starting with Dick or Jason, at least, instead of 10 years in. But I will say I'll keep my mind open to something unique. I just hope that they don't skip a single Robin, as each is most important to his development. Keep up the great work. And I don't think these are the only two comments expressing this concern about Batman. And I didn't know there was this much concern about the Brave and the Bold Batman starting, let's just say, 10 or so years in. And we say 10 or so years in because if Damian Wayne's coming in, if Batman started around 25 or just about 26, 10 years plus to get to a Bat family, which we know Peter Safran and James Gunn has teased, and Damian Wayne, his son, coming in, yeah, he would at least, at the minimum, for Damian Wayne to be coming in, be 36 to 38 years old, unless they change up some chronological ordering there of the way things went down, which I don't rule out because adaptations aren't copy and paste. But regardless, I wasn't really aware so much that there was concern about not seeing what built up to that. Because I think for me, I don't mind. I kind of understand that this isn't somewhat of a, new universe, kind of soft reboot, I get it. But this isn't going to be one of those universes where it's like, origin. We see Batman at the beginning again. We see him go to year 2, year 3. He takes Dick Grayson on as his ward. And he starts training him as Robin, and then eventually adopts him. And then, Jason Todd comes into the picture, trains him for like 3-4 years. But then Jason dies, and then you get the idea. I think that's the very thing that James Gunn wanted to kind of avoid with this new universe. Hence the whole descriptive words of a living, breathing DC universe where heroes exist and have existed. Now, I know I repeat that a lot throughout videos, but I think they are very important words to say out loud to yourself. Like, heroes exist and have existed. This is a world that isn't brand new to origins of vigilantes, heroes. So I get maybe the personal preference that people have of seeing Dick Grayson being trained as a young Robin, then eventually going into Nightwing. But that would be like a multi-year movie arc, wouldn't it? It'd be like a whole Batman trilogy all over again, but for the DCU. So given the parameters and just the kind of, blocks of creativity that I know we're going into this new universe with, I understand that, okay, we're not like doing Origin Superman, Origin Batman, Origin Lanterns, Origin this. For some characters, maybe, for all we know, Booster Gold travels back in time, and first episode, we see him arrive to the DCU's timeline for the first time. I'm not ruling out some Origins, or even Swamp Thing coming about for maybe the first time, and as James Mangold describes it, he's going throughout the movie, trying to piece together as to how he even came this plant matter being, right? So I get that, but for the most part, we're hitting the ground running, as I always say. So I'm personally okay with the fact that, we don't see Dick Grayson necessarily in Robin mode because he might be Nightwing at the beginning of the movie, given that Damian Wayne's coming in. We might have also skipped past Jason Todd as well, because by the events of The Brave and the Bold, Jason might have actually died not that long ago in terms of the grand scheme of things, before Damian Wayne and The Brave and the Bold's plot even picks up. Going back to Diner Guy here saying, it seems risky to have an established Batman with a rich history we never saw. I get that perspective, but I don't know, maybe I'm just really optimistic about it, or I've just been so assuming that, okay, yeah, I'm on board with this vision. You know, Batman's already been around for 10, 12 years. He's not an old man, but he's not a super young man. He's just in that experienced state where he's had a couple of Robins at least, and now his son, Damian Wayne, who's a little ninja assassin murderer, is coming in the picture. But if I would have to take a guess at what is risky about that, is maybe you might have some audience members being like, oh, new Bruce Wayne actor, new Batcave set, new Gotham, new everything, new Robin actor who's, wait, now he's Nightwing. Wait, the general audience might be like, who's Nightwing? Is that, so he was a Robin? Oh, wait, so there was another Robin, but we didn't see him because he died and that got teased in dialogue? Can the audience out there who may know about it some more than others, but let's just say not everyone knows everything about Batman, can the audience connect to characters of Batman who's 10 to 12 years into his career? That is probably what I'd assume is the risky part. But if executed well enough, I think people will understand. I think the general audience, or those who would be willing to go see a superhero movie, and those who are kind of low-key excited about it, even if they're not fully ingrained in comic book culture, would know enough that, okay, Batman has had a Robin, or Robins, or maybe they've even heard of Batgirl. Maybe they've played an Arkham game where they're maybe more familiar about this. Maybe they've seen old movies. I don't know what it is, but it's not outlandish to assume that people have heard of Batman and Robin. So picking up 10 to 12 years in, all while I understand that you haven't seen that rich history, I do think the audience will kind of be like, okay, this is where Batman's at, and maybe try and just like what I'm going into it with the lenses of appreciate what is here and now. This could actually be a really cool opportunity to kind of, once again, hit the ground running. We don't need to see the young Bruce Wayne. In fact, we've got a Elseworlds project with the Batman Part 2 or Part 3 by that time coming out, and where we're seeing that psychological roadmap develop for a younger Batman and a younger Bruce Wayne. But in the DCU, I actually think, all while I understand the concern here, as per the point of this video, it could, because it is valid, it really is, I do think there's a tremendous opportunity to stick our knife and fork into the dish there of an experienced Batman with a fairly, from what we're guessing, fleshed out Bat family, and what that could mean with this character arc going forward. I think if the script is good enough, they don't do something in a movie where Nightwing flies in when Damian's in the Batcave set, and Dick just comes in and he's like, oh, who are you? You know, I used to be Robin, you know. Like, that's on the nose dialogue. I do agree, show, don't tell. There's plenty of other ways that you can show that Dick Grayson, oh, that was the first Robin. Or they can maybe weave it in a bit more naturally in the dialogue, but I do think there's ways to explain to the audience, oh okay, he was the first Robin, now this is Batman's son, he's been doing this for like the past decade or so. There are ways that the audience can get stuck in and actually appreciate the Batman at this point in his career, rather than maybe secretly desiring, I wish we saw the very beginnings of this. Because all while I get seeing that fleshed out and explored, clearly Gunn has a different direction in where he wanted to have a Batman who's a bit further along. And if we had a Batman at his inception, or only at the very least year 3, beginning to take on Dick Grayson as a Robin, that would be the entirety of chapters 1 and 2 to get to the point of where we're already getting to him in chapter 1, if you're still with me there. So I don't know. I know I keep going around in circles right now, but I actually really don't mind at all that the Batman and his Bat family will already be established to a certain extent. But then again, I do get the gripe with it, because we've never really seen in live action Batman get a Robin, train a Robin, get a second Robin, and then an Under the Red Hood thing eventually, and then Tim Drake, and then eventually Damian. Instead, we're cutting right into that. So I do get that. But for me, as a huge Batman fan, as you guys know, doesn't actually bother me that much. So up next is from Nanu421, and I guess this is just their most exciting, anticipated thing for the DCU. The thing I desire to witness the most is the friendship of world's finest. Everyone interested in the DC Universe knows that they represent different sides of the same coin, and that makes them perfect allies. I want to see a building trust, tightening connection, and witty banter between the two, just like the DC Animated Universe showed a long time ago. I think this one is a no-brainer. whenever I think about it, it gets me so excited at the possibilities. Even like some of the clips I might be showing on screen right now, I think it'd be so cool if, yeah, sure, as we know, James Gunn has teased that Superman has already got these metahuman compatriots, and that's why he's including Hawk Girl, Mr. Terrific, and Guy Gardner. Like, maybe he already knows of them, and how could he show Superman's life in addition to Clark Kent without showing his metahuman compatriots? I kind of get what James Gunn is explaining there, but just because he knows those heroes, it doesn't mean that necessarily he's met the Batman of Gotham City. Maybe he's ran into him, but I'd like to think that because Batman's been doing this for at least 10 to 12 years, from, you know, everything that we can reasonably understand with Damian Wayne coming in, and Superman, I would say, is, we've talked about this before as well, I really don't know, but I wouldn't like it to be 5 or 6 years. I personally want it to be like 3 years active as Superman around the world. Maybe he hasn't just, you know, gone into Gotham yet, and there could be a similar, as you said, teasing to that of the DC animated universe, buildings to Batman and Superman, and where there's a bit of like this, okay, they're on the same side, but like Superman's like really righteous in a way, and Batman's there just like, dude, I've been doing this for a hot minute. I can imagine there's a bit of like tension there initially. Perhaps they kind of rub each other the wrong way in how their approach to whatever situation is unfolding is going down, but along that direction they work together, and there's this mutual respect that gets built. And I don't mind the potential age difference here, because I've always pictured Bruce Wayne as a little bit older than Superman. And I don't mean that to be done in such a way where there's a power dynamic difference between Superman and Batman. Batman being older, because I think this is what a lot of people think, automatically means that he's superior to Superman. And I don't think that's the case. They can still be equals. But I do ultimately agree. You can do the whole building trust thing, tightening that connection as you describe it there, without having to do the whole Batman versus Superman approach. Now, that's not knocking that. I get why Snyder went for that angle, but here I would prefer a much more exactly what you're seeing on screen right now approach to it, and where perhaps they're stepping on each other's toes just a little bit, but throughout whatever happens, they come to respect each other. And I don't know what that would be. I have no idea if we would get a World's Finest movie. I have said in my what I want to come to the DCU video, something like that. It was a top 10. Go check it out if you haven't done so already. In how before any Justice League movie, I want a World's Finest movie or a Trinity movie, in where we see these characters come across each other. That's if they don't know each other already, and they start exploring the idea of making a bigger group, a league, a Justice League. Maybe eventually, as per one of the inspirations behind the DCU, a Justice League Unlimited type sense of things, especially with the amount of characters that we know James Gunn is going to incorporate into the DCU. Siraj Whitewolf says, I'm hoping Dick Grayson / Nightwing will have a significant presence in The Brave and the Bold. I've always wanted to see Dick's origin done right on the big screen. Unfortunately, we're not getting that, it seems, neither in the Reeveverse nor the DCU. Well, apparently, rumors out there, everyone's believing that Robin's going to be in the Batman Part 2. I'm not saying for a fact that he isn't, but I'm just saying always take rumors with a huge grain of salt, people. Anyway, still, a meaty role for him in The Brave and the Bold. That's just more than just a cameo / Easter egg would be great. So I guess, yeah, your most anticipated thing is mixed with your biggest concern, that you want Nightwing, but you don't want it to be just something so small where it's like, if you know what I mean. Now, I think it will be significant. This is a Batman, The Brave and the Bold movie that is mainly, obviously, incorporating Damian Wayne and this, father and son journey that unfolds there. But the Bat family are involved, as we know. And even if you want to look to something like the Son of Batman, I do think there could be some really, really, really cool scenes between Nightwing and maybe Damian Wayne. Maybe there's this moment where Damian just isn't quite getting it. He's still very ingrained in the way that he's been raised, but he has some conversations with Dick Grayson, who's also been trained by Bruce from a very young age to the age he's at right now as Nightwing. He's been kind of forged into this weapon. He knows what it's like to kind of be a weapon as a Robin in a sense. Not taking the approach that Batman only literally takes these kids off the street and forges them into diabolical weapons. I'm not saying it in that lens. I hope you see what I'm trying to say there. Plus, I wouldn't even compare it to Damian Wayne, who in the League of Assassins, my god, now that is what you would call weapon training. But at least there could be, what I'm really stepping up to here is a really important scene between Dick Grayson and Damian Wayne and where they can relate to each other. Especially, it could be somewhat furthering Damian to look at his father in a different way, what he's done to fight crime, how he's incorporated that with Robins and the Robin mantle. Maybe Damian will look at the Robin mantle in a different way after that. So that's just an example of one scene, by the way. But I definitely don't think that Nightwing, Dick Grayson, would be in the movie just as a tiny cameo or an Easter egg. I think that would be a huge mistake, especially when I think that on top of what I just said and possibly some other really cool scenes that we could see, I do think that they would somewhat tease something going down with Nightwing in the DCU at large, because again, there are still 10 plus projects yet to complete chapter 1, and that's with the 10 we've already got, and then there's chapter 2. So whether this is a Nightwing solo project or a Titans project, because I really do feel, and I've said this for the longest time, that we will be getting something like that, I think that could kind of be teased in one way, shape, or form, like with maybe Bruce talking to Dick and asking what he's up to these days, and he's like, oh, I'm trying to start my own team, or something as simple as that could be a really cool foreshadowing of what is to come our way with the future DCU. So Darth Psalm 9771 says, by far my biggest concern for the new DCU is how it's received, especially at the box office. I'm incredibly excited for a cohesive DC universe involving so many popular DC characters. Young Justice and Justice League Unlimited are my favorite DC media, and partly because of how many different characters play a role in the shows. I agree. There's been a few comments on you guys leaving them for this video with regards to how there is so much potential for this DC universe that actually has like a plan that they've been working on for quite a while that's probably always being added to with this really big sense of cohesion. And you could really have this, I know some people disagree, but it could be like a really kick-ass DCU. But what if it never really gets to that state of potential because it never quite lifts off the ground? And why would that happen? Well, of course, if people just don't turn up to watch Superman Legacy, or let's just say even despite Superman Legacy maybe not doing as well as it should have done, which could be a possibility, which is why I think they'll still push through to the next project or two. But if those next two projects don't do well either, then yeah, that would be absolutely catastrophic. Now, I don't think they would even get past Superman Legacy if Superman Legacy got Blue Beetle or Shazam Fury of the Gods money, so we're talking below 130 million. Then yeah, that would be catastrophic right from the get-go. But if Superman Legacy did something like north of 600 million, but less than the Batman 780 million, then they might be like, okay, we'll give the next project or two a shot. But like, if they're still going to be underwhelming, then this whole new DC Studios 10-year roadmap plan that David Zaslav, hired you, James Gunn, and Peter Safran for, clearly it's not working out. Or should we even continue to go down this path? That's where I think I see two options. Or I guess there is a third option, and where Superman Legacy does really well, Lanterns is received really well on Max, gets a good boost in subscriptions or just great reviews. Then the Authority is like another Guardians of the Galaxy. People think, oh, who cares about the Authority? I don't really know these characters that much, but it gets great reviews. Lots of people go and see it. Do you know what I mean? So there is really just three options. And of course, this is probably one of the most relevant concerns that I could possibly even speak about in this video. And once again, here it's echoed by Brendan here by saying, hey Boba, love your videos. My main concern is how are they going to get people to go to the theater while all attempts have failed for all of their recent films. I'm super excited for the upcoming DCU. However, I'm worried it might flop in theaters and the DCU won't last long. So without repeating myself so much from what I just said, other than, yep, bear in mind there's three ways it can go. Mega successful, so it's like, okay, yeah, we'll just take it how it comes with each thing. Already started off to a great start with Superman Legacy. B, of course, minus 130 mil Superman Legacy. Oh god, they really much reevaluate as of the first project. Another option being the third one, being like, makes just enough So maybe we'll see how the next project goes, but we're now truly taking this by case basis. But how, as what you're saying here, with what I just said there in mind, are they going to get people to even go to it in the first place? So it doesn't actually end up like the option in where I said it doesn't even make Shazam Fury of the Gods money. Well, the reason why I don't think that right there would even happen in the first place, and some people might look at me in two different ways and say, oh, Boba, you're being so naive. And some people might be like, no, maybe you have a point. The reason being, I think Superman Legacy will automatically do better than Shazam Fury of the Gods, for example. And hopefully, God willing, like Black Adam, so that's 393 million it would need to beat there. It's because it's Superman. Yes, I know that this isn't Henry Cavill, but no matter what, how are they going to get people? This is your biggest concern. My main concern is how are they going to get people to the theater? Well, all attempts for Blue Beetle, Shazam, Black Adam, Birds of Prey, The Suicide Squad, the list goes on after Aquaman, haven't broken past $400 million at the box office. Well, Superman is a great title to start off on with your newly advertised DC Universe. Now, we all know that it's mostly kind of a low-key soft reboot, but soft reboot is really to be applied so lightly here. Let's just assume that Gal Gadot isn't coming back as Wonder Woman. So really the only faces as per what you've got to deal with, like we said before, is Peacemaker, Vigilante, Harcourt, Steve Agee, John Economos, etc. Most people won't really recognize that in the main audience. So this will, when the marketing, as I said earlier, really comes into effect, be advertised as a new world, like truly a comic book, cohesive, living, breathing DCU where heroes exist and have existed. This feels really new. It is a new Superman. That's a really bold way to show how it is new. Clearly not the DCEU history there with Henry Cavill's character. No continuity in that vein. This is a new Clark Kent. So with DC taking a good year or so off, other than Joker 2 Folie à Deux, there's no cinematic universe movie after Aquaman until, guys, the new DCU. It's as simple as that. Technically, Creature Commandos is the first prelude DCU animated project that is connected to the DCU. We know that one of the characters from Creature Commandos will be appearing in Waller, and that makes you think, could that be Rick Flag Sr.? Because, maybe he has something to say to Peacemaker. And the reason why I say that is because apparently a lot of Peacemaker crew could be appearing in the Waller show. So, yeah, a little bit of a random tangent there. But the main thing is people will probably turn up. Just quite simply because it's a new universe and it's a new Superman movie. Now, this doesn't guarantee it's going to make mad money, like $1 billion. And so with all of those aspects combined, like really think about it, excluding Joker 2, which people won't really treat as saying, oh, look, there's a DC Cinematic Universe movie, like the DCEU or DCU. A year or so, because, Superman Legacy slated to come out, I believe, summer 2025. That's a long time. Like, normally with the MCU, you still get like a couple of movies a year, or like a MCU still live-action TV show, right? The DCU/DCEU will have nothing. The DCEU will be fully over. The DCU, other than Creature Commandos, that will be it. There's no live action stuff. So that's a long time for, I don't think, audiences to fully recover from the DC brand. Definitely not. But will it ignite enough interest by the time you go through January, February, March, April, and then all the way to November, December of 2024. And now you're in January again of 2025, and you're going into the spring there and going into the summer to when the marketing really ramps up for this new universe that you can bet your ass they're going to put heavy marketing into this new vision, this new thing, this new Superman, this new DC universe. That will have people show up to it. I'm pretty damn confident about that. But what I'm not confident about is, will it be enough people? Will it just still make Man of Steel level money where it's like, okay, but is it like the option 2 approach of what I said earlier where they're willing to carry on with Lanterns and the Authority, but it didn't meet their expectations for box office numbers? I don't know that, but I would like to think with that gap of time, the heavy marketing for a new universe, even though we know it kind of isn't, but to the most normies out there, it will be basically a new universe with a new face for Superman. That will pique interest, and the marketing, I think, is the most important factor here. It needs to slap. They need to like show how cool this movie is, show the new vibrancy of this new aesthetic that James Gunn speaks about that's never been seen before with Metropolis and a cinematic universe. And if they can really sell that to the audience, I reckon it might do really well. And people would just be that intrigued to see this new Superman movie because it's a new Superman movie. Is it going to be crap? Is it going to be maybe what I thought it would be? Or is it going to be better than what I thought it would be? Or is it going to be just as good as I wanted it to be? All of these questions. Honestly, I think I could ramble about this one all day, but Brendan, that is my answer to how are they even going to get people to go there in the first place. I think there's just a bit of automatic interest there for a new universe in Superman anyway, that you have something going for it inherently, but also there are some things that they can do to hopefully make it well received at the box office, or at least satiate some kind of interest in the audience's mind to the point of where they're like, you know what, I actually really enjoyed that so much. Because this movie also, and I'm going to be working on another video that kind of really tackles this subject, it also needs to make you interested in what comes next. And other than lanterns, that is the authority. So they're going to have to capture your interest in this new universe and what they show you. And let's just hope that they do that. And I think that they can. And Marcus Yee says here, I'm looking forward to some characters that haven't had a proper live action appearance yet, or at least a slightly more definitive version of the major characters. Also pretty happy that he's taking inspiration from specific storylines for his movies. My only concern is how far will Gunn take with the creative liberties, despite some characters from his movies being changed for the better / to the benefit of the story. Star-Lord, Drax, Peacemaker, Vigilante. I'm hopeful he can stay true with certain characters. Casting is also something I've been a little indecisive with. I'm not personally a fan of certain casting choices so far, Nathan Fillion and maybe Isabella Merced, but that's just me. So I think this is this one's a really good comment. So you listed what you're most excited for. So yeah, of course, some characters that we haven't had a proper live action introduction to. And yeah, we're really going to get that with this new DCU, from Mr. Terrific to Booster Gold to God knows how many other characters in the rest of the Chapter 1 announcements, and let alone Chapter 2. It could be crazy. Could get like live action Raven and Titans and Deathstroke and all of that stuff. It's limitless. I'm really excited for that. But what comes with that is a very, very legitimate and valid concern here. And that is, sometimes with characters being cast like this, as fans very much so know and still disagree with to this day, such as Drax the Destroyer. Lots of people say that he kind of really is nothing like, he's like a dumbed down, Dave Bautista funny version of the actual comic book counterpart. Or you look at Vigilante from Peacemaker, absolutely really mirroring nothing of the severity of Vigilante in the source material as well. He's fully embracing the goofiness, the kind of, yet again, dumbed down comedic. There seems to be quite a lot of dumbed downness with these characters that James Gunn casts, but to the success. This is one thing that has to be noted here. Now, not everyone likes this. I know someone's going to be like, well, I still don't like Vigilante and Peacemaker, but I personally really enjoy it. People love Drax and Guardians, but the purists, I would completely understand the frustration of, let's just say, and God, this would wind me up the wrong way, if we saw Green Arrow in the DCU as a bit more... Oliver in the comics can be quite quippy, don't get me wrong, but if he was just like and shoots the arrow, I would be like, what have you done? What have you done? Quite literally. So there is that. This is a concern. Now, I have to think, because for the most part, I'm pretty sure I really enjoy what James Gunn has done with castings. And, as you said, maybe perhaps change them to benefit the live action version more, which there is proof in the pudding there, because I really like Chris Pratt as Star-Lord. I really like Drax. I really like Peacemaker. I really like Vigilante on Peacemaker. So whoever he does that with in the DCU, I don't know if they're going to be... Oliver Queen is such an extreme example, because I can't imagine he would cast someone for Oliver Queen and completely do a vigilante type characterization of that. But I really don't think he, like James Gunn or whoever decides this, if, you know, Andy Muschietti is directing The Brave and the Bold, for example, that he'll make Nightwing just this complete vigilante Drax type character. That I think they are self-aware enough, believe it or not. I know some people would disagree with me here because they might really hate James Gunn, I don't know. But regardless, it is still making me think, damn, it is a good point. He's done it before with some other characters. Who could that be done to in the DCU? But the thing is, some of you may disagree with this. So far, at least, I have to admit, I'm still happy with the characters he's done it to in the MCU and DCEU, like Vigilante. And I think for me, this raises like a bigger thing of, will casting always come down to James Gunn? Because I know in the MCU, they actually have like an overall main casting director who was responsible for a lot of, especially the early days MCU casting. So, you know, will the DCU really always be down to James Gunn? I mean, he technically is the creative guru behind this main plan, but then again, he wants to give a lot of creative freedom and liberty to directors. So like, this is the thing that I'm really wanting to know what the bottom line is. Will Andy Muschietti be casting his Batman for The Brave and the Bold? Or will that be the illusion of choice there, where Andy Muschietti gets a bunch of frontrunners, or maybe they'll still have like a casting director like help him out with that, but ultimately James Gunn needs to sign off on it. So if Andy really wanted this guy for Brave and the Bold's Batman, or, you know, the casting for Nightwing or Damian Wayne, he might be like, oh yeah, James, and James would be like, yeah, no, pick another one, or something like that, just candidly. I don't know. That's something I'm really intrigued with, because, yeah, the thing is, he is the creative guru, but the reason why Superman Legacy's castings are the way they are as well is because, we can't forget, he's directing Superman Legacy, but he's not directing every movie out there. However, what we do know, as the creative guru behind the DCU, he will be ushering the writers and directors of these movies, of these TV shows, in places of where they need to meet with the main character storylines, the overarching storylines of the DCU from movie to movie. Just like Kevin Feige ensures you have to hit this beat, this beat, this beat, and I'm going to kind of oversee that, see what you've written, and maybe give you some notes on where you may need to adhere to what I've got in my, you know, timeline of things that need to happen. So I wonder how much of a say he will have in terms of castings. I mean, in my mind, technically he has all the say at the end of the day, but traditionally, normally directors get to choose their and cast their own main characters. But back on the other side again, I can't imagine if James Gunn wasn't happy with who Andy was going for in Brave and the Bold, for example, that he would let that come to pass. So yeah, that's another little random thought I had there. But overall, this is something we're going to have to pay attention to, the way that characters could be changed to maybe better or benefit the story, as we've seen it before, that was indeed successful with audiences like Drax, Vigilante, and Peacemaker, and even maybe Peacemaker himself. But I am optimistic that he won't royally screw the main characters and what they should reflect, because already I can imagine the demeanor of David Corenswet's Superman, Rachel Brosnahan's Lois Lane. They seem like quintessential castings for me, and I'd have to think that will be, you know, other characters of that magnitude will be given the same respectful casting. But anyway, guys, that is absolutely everything I'm going to say for today's video, but there's plenty more most anticipated and also most concerning things that you guys dropped in that comment section that I'm more than happy to ramble on about in yet another video. So please leave this video a like if you want to see another one of these, and I can possibly get to a lot more of your questions for those of you who submitted them, your concerns, your excitements and whatnot. But also just, of course, let me know what you thought of what we talked about in today's video. I would love absolutely any of your responses to any of the things that we covered. I always love getting into all of this, because with this particular video covering, you know, sure, what we're most excited by, but also some very, very valid concerns, it's a very relevant thing to discuss with a universe that's coming our way that we can't just always assume is going to be, you know, smooth sailing. There are things which hold such potential, but things that are also like, oh yeah, gonna have to wait to see how that one checks out. But until next time, guys, just really appreciate you supporting the channel, trying to put out some content in the meantime of not much content even being out there in this industry right now. So hope you appreciate that, and I appreciate you all for sticking with me here. But until the next video, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you people of the DCU in the next video. Goodbye.